please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdates 230608.9. We're going to have to restrict energy on the Arcadia and rely on hydroponics for food for a week. The worst part about this really is that we can't electrocute Ensign Bork for at least a month. Life really isn't fair now, is it? Welcome everyone to the exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with idubbbz, because it turns out people aren't done flaying him. His fall has been quite impressive, and I say fall more within levels of respect as opposed to viewership on content. His content is changing, of course it is. Influencers away from the keyboard do undoubtedly impact the kind of content he produces. I am not here to rag on that, because that requires effort, and I am renowned for being far too lazy for that. Instead, I want to focus on the response to a recent clip that was doing its rounds. A 47-second clip that was shared by Homosexual. I've said it that way on purpose because it's spelt that way. Least egotistical content creator. And to be clear, this isn't a moral standard he actually holds. This is just Twitch's insane TOS that holds streamers responsible for someone's actions anywhere when they might have watched your stream. But instead of saying, I don't want to lose my channel, he pretends to believe it. So what does idubbbz say to get that response? Let's find out.
Clear that I am absolutely responsible for my audience. If you want to, look out for people who are red flags, it's definitely people who had my mentality that say, I'm not responsible for what my audience does.
There is a nuanced take to this. I have certainly got one, and we'll get to it soon. I'm inserting this because fair use. But also I want you to know there is a point here where we can agree and disagree.
I completely agree, and there are so many f***ing content creators out there that just leave that at the door. They turn on, they go in their computer and they do their content and do this, and the second they're offline, they just let the snowball go down the hill.
Yes, it's almost as if it's a job. You do your job, and then you go home. Yes. Again though, this is not a black or white issue. Black and white? Black, white? There is a grey area, and we need to talk about that once we're finished with this video. Oh, and speaking in nebulous terms, there are some creators like this. So?
You are absolutely responsible for your audience.
Oh dear. Dealing in absolutes. Interesting. You realize this is why Twitter hammered you for this, right?
And what they're saying and doing, and what's happening in different discords and stuff. You have to. No one else can be. You are the mother that birthed that audience, right? They are a reflection of you.
And there is guilt to be assigned there? Interesting. Interesting. We'll explain why that is once we finish the final clip. There's a little bit more to play, and I want you to have all the context.
It makes me sick to think of what you guys might say and do in other channels. That's why I'm very strict here.
I think we both know that's not why you're strict on Twitch. On Twitch, the TOS is actually quite explicit. People have been yeeted off Twitch for what they do on other platforms, because Twitch moderates your presence everywhere else. So it's not that you're strict, it's that you know you can be yeeted if your audience says anything untoward, not only in your chat, but are seen to do it everywhere else, which then can be traced back to you. You do it because you're a pussy. I'm on Twitch as well, by the way, but I'm incredibly careful how I behave on Twitch anyway, because I enjoy playing video games and that's the best place for me to gain any viewership. But I'm not as prominent as you are. I am but an oik compared to you. Willie Mac retweeted the original tweet with, "You are not responsible for your audience unless you directly tell them to do something. They are their own people. If you have 100,000 viewers, statistically speaking, one of them is going to be unhinged." This is a fair use disclaimer I use in my videos. I use it because not only is it an indicator of obeying the rules of YouTube and that I have a right to do so, but I also make it quite clear I will not tolerate anyone going from my video to somebody else's channel that I am critiquing, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere in fact on social media. I will not tolerate you going there to harangue, hassle, bully them. I have held that view since I started in 2015, but I'm not responsible for you if you decide to go and do it. I'm not also going to force it down your throat that I don't condone it. Ludwig replied, the argument that statistically 1 out of 100,000 people will be unhinged so bear no responsibility on the other 99,999 is incredibly weak. Now Ludwig has gotten a fair amount of criticism for that comment, but Willie Mac had actually put out a statement on this. And that's where I want to go next because it was a reply to Ryan C. Beard. So Ryan Beard had replied to Willie Mac by saying, do you genuinely believe that influencers have zero influence over people? And do you think creators hold no responsibility if they influence people negatively? The idea that creators hold absolutely no responsibility for negative influence is so ignorance. Reply, nobody said that. Obviously, if you spread misinformation, scam, or tell your audience to harass someone, that is on you. I'm just saying I'm not their dad just because they watch my YouTube videos. Stop shoving words in my mouth. You do this all the time and it is annoying. Ryan Beard. Alright, well I think encouraging people to say slurs falls under the category of misinformation, because that's promoting what I consider harmful information. I'm not saying creators are people's parents, but they do hold partial responsibility for their influence. Response. Slurs are not information, you effing idiot. Ryan Beard. The argument that it's okay to say slurs is information. When you try to convince an audience of an argument, that is you trying to inform your audience that your perspective is correct. Reply. You fundamentally do not understand idubbbz's argument. He was simply saying if you're okay with some slurs, you should be okay with all of them. Also, slurs have nuance. Saying one for a comedy skit is completely different than being racist and mean with them. Streamer Ninja replied to Ludwig by saying you aren't responsible for them, but you have a responsibility to be a good role model and leader, especially when you are talking about sensitive topics. And he is also correct. Ludwig is using reductio ad absurdum to try and catch someone out because he wants a cheap win as opposed to understanding the point. Low comprehension appears to be on his side. Willie Mac retweeted Ludwig by saying, obviously if 99,999 of your 100,000 viewers are being racist, then you are responsible for that. But is that how you would describe idubbbz? His entire audience is racist? Adding, bro, these big YouTubers just come up with the most insane made up scenarios and then act like that's my argument. Stop shoving words down my throat. That is the point. It's like someone who doesn't get a joke, and Ludwig is no exception in this one. Willie Mac also retweeted Ninja by saying, when I made my YouTube account, I didn't realize I signed up to be everyone's dad. 99% of viewers watch a YouTube video and then forget about you the rest of the day. You guys all think you're way more important than you are. And there's a point to that as well. We are just creators, we are nothing special. He also said before everyone spazzes out in the replies, remember, I explicitly say this in the original tweet. You are responsible if you spread misinformation, scams, etc., but not for every random person that follows you. Why are content creators held to the unbelievably high standards of being responsible for their audience, but musicians, directors, and video games are largely not anymore? Should rap songs not sing about violence and drugs? Should games not be violent? And Willie Mac raises a number of very important points here. If you miss his entire point from the first tweet, the rest of these tweets mean nothing to you. You, the creator, myself included, am not responsible for what you do. Some of us take steps, some of us don't. That doesn't mean we should have to take steps every time to make sure you know you shouldn't be a massive dickhead. It's up to you what you do. You are free to do and be whoever you want. And the same applies to me. I'm not influencing you in that respect. A simple matter of courtesy is all that is requested, not demanded or expected. No one is entitled to that. And I also agree with the argument that if one slur is acceptable, all are. That may not be a popular opinion, but there should be no wiggle room here. Free speech is free speech. No one said anything about consequence though, just to be clear. EDP fanboy simp, Chris the Narc. Why do I have to treat every viewer like a brain-dead child according to the large creators in Willie's thread? F off with that, use your brain. This being a reference to Ludwig and Ninja, although I can argue to an extent Ninja was partially right. Treating areas very carefully, if you want to play the game on social media, is applicable. But at the same time, you should just have the balls to say, nah fam. He also later on tweeted concerning Ludwig, take responsibility for all the legal drink drivers you make in 5 to 10 years, bro. Including an image of a video from Ludwig. I tried driving drunk legally. So this is called a boing whip. He also, Chris, included the video, how Ludwig got me a DUI. Def Noodles retweeted Ludwig with, creators are only responsible for their audience's actions if they directly request they execute something on their behalf. If we are going to start blaming creators for every action their audience members do, should we also blame Christopher Nolan and the producers of The Dark Knight for the Aurora shooting? With Keemstar replying to him a picture of the I tried driving drunk legally thumbnail video link image thing. Yeah, that doodah from Ludwig, because apparently Ludwig has not a single leg to stand on and Def Noodles just laid the smack down. Unless we explicitly as creators ask you to go and do it, don't. There are some people within other communities I know of that intentionally seek to flag people for wrong thing, or flag them because of some of their actions away from the keyboard that they know of as an audience. Bad tactics are not respectable in the slightest, and flagging is not something many people respect, nor is harassment bullying, of course not. But what is harassment and what is bullying is very much subjective. This, in the instance of what Def Noodles has tweeted, is, while a false equivalence, comparing obviously creators' actions and Christopher Nolan, it is still a dub for him. Repsion put out a fairly lengthy tweet, and I want to read this because it's a food for thought tweet from him. The conversation about YouTubers being solely responsible for what their audience does is a fascinating one. It isn't a black and white conversation. There are a lot of factors that come into play. When I made my video on Trisha Paytas, I put in my first disclaimer not to harass her. Did that stop folks from being unhinged online and keeping track of everything she does? No. If I make a video and directly tell my audience that they should go out and run people over with a car, that would be irresponsible of me. I may influence them to do something, but the choice to get into their car and run someone over falls on them being dumb enough to listen to an idiot telling them to do it. We as creators do have a responsibility in regards to content information we put there to the public. Absolutely. But this idea that we as creators take the choices away from people of their own personal individuality is absolutely insane position to hold. I think it's important to make a distinction between influence and personal responsibility. It's my personal responsibility that I don't spread false information about someone I cover in my video series. If I make a video talking about how terrible someone is showing factual, documented evidence with clips, audio of someone, let's say, unaliving cats, and one of my viewers goes ballistic, finds the cat unaliver and unalives them, am I seriously responsible for that? Because I exposed them for doing terrible things? Now, Kaylee Bear did reply to him saying it's a more complicated kind of issue. You're not one of these people, but for example, if a creator puts out horrible lies about someone, like for example, falsely accusing someone of being a child lover, and stuff happens to them, even if a do not harass disclaimer was put before them, and I don't have part 2 to that tweet because I archived Repsion's. I'm going to finish it for you though without actually knowing what you tweeted, because on the face of it, it is another false equivalence and reductio ad absurdum to say, oh yes, but this extreme example, these aren't gotchas, and no offense to Kaylee Bear, of course not, but that's not the point. It's a false equivalence to then find a way to make it seem like it is justifiable on the creator to be the most responsible creator and person and professional on the planet. You are putting creators on a pedestal. I make one video a day on this channel, maybe 15 minutes at most, okay? The rest of the day is quite long. If my video has influenced you to go and do something really stupid, it's not because I told you to do it, is it? Unless your stupid thing of the day was to smash the like, in which case, thank you. Don't forget to comment as well, we do appreciate that. One last tweet on this subject, Hannah Clark. I'm giving no context to this.
I'm going to inspire so many people to become police officers and start kneeling on people. Like, that's the whole point.
That could well be a sensitive topic for many, but I do think reductio ad absurdum being used in all contexts to prove the point of how ridiculous the argument is that you can't on the face of it accept creators are not for the most part responsible for what the viewer does unless we directly tell you to go and do something. That is, in and of itself, inherently wrong, i.e. harass, bully, stalk, commit crimes against people because we've highlighted how crappy the person we're talking about is. There are many other instances. The answer should remain, regardless of it being a grey area, don't do it. Because if you do, you're a colossal snakehead. But at the same time, it is not my responsibility to tell you not to be a smeghead. If you still don't understand that point, then I think you fail to understand the YouTube ecosystem and how the relationship between a creator and their viewers really works. If you believe that you are the father to your community, the mother to your community, and any other title for parent of your respective community, it sounds to me like you have an ego that needs checking on a regular basis, either via people like myself who will remind you you're not that important, or at least have a decent set of mods who will tell you that you're a tosser, just to stop you from acting like a tosser. If you, the viewer, believe the creator has a responsibility, you are welcome to that perspective and opinion, of course you are. We will agree to disagree, because I do not believe that is the case and I think you're wrong. Using extremes does not prove your point, it just means you are willing to set a dangerous precedent of putting creators on a level that they don't belong, which I think also makes them, in turn, develop those very egos that make them think the way they currently do.